I mean to order.
Yep.
Let the minutes reflect all members present with the exception of Manager Bradley, who has prior notice. And then we'll set the agenda. Anybody like to add or subtract or change the agenda today?
Madam President, staff have no changes.
Okay. And I will ask for a change on the consent agenda. I would like to remove 22-076 and have a separate vote.
Madam Chair, I move approval of the agenda with that addition.
Second?
Second. I'm sorry.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the minutes?
Madam Chair, I move approval of the September 28th, 2022 regular meeting of the Rice Creek Watershed District Board of Managers.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. And Madam Chair, I move approval of the September 28th, 2022 Anoka, Washington Judicial Ditch 3 Phase 2 Repair Report Public Hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda number 22-050 and 22-072.
Well, Madam Chair, I would move approval of 22-050 Wildlife Rehabilitation Center and permit number 22-072 Ramsey County Public Works, City of New Brighton. Is that right?
Second.
Yeah.
Yeah, second. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We'll do a separate vote for 22-0.
Madam President, I move to Caprock permit number 22-076.
I'll second that. Madam President,
Motion
what was
made
the
and seconded.
purpose of separating this out for discussion here?
Because there's a possible conflict, because I don't know who the,
Possible conflict
with my wetland bank.
with your wetland bank. All right, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Open mic, seeing none. Anybody online anywhere? No? Seeing none, we'll move to our items requiring board action.
Madam President, Board of Managers, you just recently approved the minutes from our public hearing for the Phase 2 Anoka, Washington Judicial Ditch 3 repair. So before you, you have Resolution 2022-2021, summarizing the findings from the public hearing, and then approving and directing a final order to continue with final construction plans and bidding of the project. Okay.
Need a motion?
Thank you.
Madam President, I move to approve resolution number 2022-21. Final order directing the repair of Anoka, Washington Judicial Ditch 3 Phase 2 with the following orders. A, the Board of Managers orders implementation of the repair of Anoka, Washington Judicial Ditch 3 Phase 2, consistent with the engineer's recommendations and consistent with the capital improvement program contained in the district's watershed management plan. B, the Board of Managers directs its administrator to coordinate and take all subsequent actions necessary for implementation of the repair in a manner consistent and compliant with existing law. The board reserves to itself, however, all subsequent actions required by law to proceed upon board approval. C, the Board of Managers specifically directs its staff and engineer to conduct landowner coordination and to design the final repair configuration in a way to minimize, to the extent feasible and practicable, disturbance to adjacent areas and tree removal. Specific care shall be taken to instructing the contractor for the repair on the scope and limits of the repair and work areas. And D, the Board of Managers further authorizes expenditures for the repair.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Further discussion? Okay, it'd be a roll call. Waller?
Yes.
Wynant?
Yes.
Bradley absent. Wagman?
Yes.
And Priner, yes. Motion passes. Thank you, Ashley. Okay, Kyle.
Yes, Madam President, next for your consideration, we have an access agreement with the City of New Brighton. This is for our upcoming Johanna Creek Carp Barrier Project, which is receiving watershed-based implementation funding through Bowser. We have a 25-year access agreement, similar form to that which we've used with Ramsey County for our other carp installation at the county's regional park near Long Lake. Again, this is located at the New Brighton Community Center. So again, on property owned by the City of New Brighton, just south of 694. The city has already approved the agreement from their end, so that's good news. And the agreement begins on page 50 of your packet, runs for a couple pages, and we have a proposed motion on page 49 in my memo. Staff recommends approval of the agreement.
Any questions for Kyle? Have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the agreement between the City of New Brighton and the Rice Creek Watershed District for access, installation, and maintenance of a physical fish barrier at the New Brighton Community Center, and authorize the district's administrator to execute the document.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yeah, Madam President, I want to point out that this is, of course, one of the more natural ways to control phosphorus in lakes. And by removing these fish, particularly carp, we don't have the loss of our native plantings that are down there, plants and such, and we don't run the risk of introducing any particular chemicals which may cause, as we have in the past, poisoning and forever chemicals, we want to call them that. So I'm very happy to see this extended, and thank you for the City of New Brighton for cooperating in this manner for the next quarter of a century.
Good job.
Okay. Check register.
Madam President,
We have to have a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's
I got
right.
interrupted. Oh, okay. Okay, we had a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Madam President, I move to approve the check register dated October 12th, 2022, in the amount of $111,153.94.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, items for discussion. Kyle, I believe you'll be back.
Yes, Madam President, I'm back, and unfortunately, a very sorry replacement for Angela Deffenbaugh from the Washington Conservation District. She, at the last minute, was unavailable to attend the meeting this morning. So I will do my best to share her brief presentation on this topic. Bear with me a moment. All right, and so what we're here to talk about today is a sub-watershed assessment that the Washington Conservation District is planning to undertake within our watershed. And this has a specific focus on groundwater protection, particularly looking at larger parcels within the Washington County area of the Rice Creek Watershed District. Again, I will do my best to work through this. If it will move, there we go. So a little bit of background on this project. Again, this is a project that the Conservation District is implementing using the prior round of watershed-based implementation funding through the East Mississippi allocation area in 2021. A portion of their funding that they received through that program was set aside to implement sub-watershed assessments. You may be familiar with some of these that we've done around our watershed, working with I think Washington, all three of our conservation districts. We've done some around White Bear Lake and Bald Eagle Lake, Rice Lake up in Anoka County, Moore Lake, and so again, taking a look at groundwater protection practices within the Rice Creek watershed area of Washington County was a priority for the conservation district. Through these efforts, they'll look to identify potential best management practices. Again, estimate their pollutant reductions and the cost effectiveness. Ultimately, you get a ranking of projects that could be implemented in the future. As you see an example here. Again, in this case, they're specifically going to be looking at rural or agricultural practices. These could be structural practices, could be non-structural practices such as cover crops, things like that, that would just help protect water that infiltrates into the ground and helps recharge our groundwater aquifers in those areas of the county. So again, this is kind of a build out from some work that they completed last year. They completed a groundwater recharge zone prioritization report. I'm not an expert on that report. I've seen it just a little bit myself, but there are some areas within our watershed that were identified as key groundwater recharge zones. And so again, these are lands that should be, as I say, should be managed to prevent contamination of that recharge water where there is that strong connection. Their model looked at both pollution sensitivity of near surface soil materials and then proximity to bedrock, which really isn't so much a situation in the Rice Creek area. Certainly other areas of Washington County, you've got much, bedrock much closer to the surface as you reach the St. Croix River. So again, multiple different things that they looked at to identify these areas. This is a map of Washington County that was generated from that report in 2021. As you can see, the bulk of their real, high priority areas again are in the southern parts of the county, where you get down in the bluffs there, along the Mississippi and St. Croix rivers. Although up in our little corner of the county, we do have some areas that are higher priority. So the area that they're focusing on in particular, as an example here, is up around Hugo, where we do have some of those darker green areas on the map. There are additionally some areas down around Matamidi and White Bear Lake on the southern part of our area of Washington County. Again, however, with this effort being focused largely on rural or agricultural uses, large lots, there likely won't be too much of a focus down there given the urban and suburban build out. So again, as far as timeline goes here, the first task will be more of a desktop analysis to look at identifying the parcels that will be looked at in the field later. Initially, and what's in your packet on page 60 is a draft letter that the Conservation District intends to send out in short order here to those identified landowners. So I think they're looking at generally parcel sizes greater than maybe 4 to 5 acres in that range. I don't know the exact number, but again, looking at those larger rural properties for opportunities. And that'll happen here this fall. With then an identification of those BMPs will take place, and some modeling will be done over the winter to look at the potential pollutant reduction estimates and costs of those BMPs. Early next year, a final report will come out, and then ideally we'll be in a position to begin implementing projects in the spring of 2023. I anticipate the projects that are identified as a part of this process will be good candidates to run through our water quality BMP cost share program. So hopefully this will help spur some interest in that program from the rural areas of the district. And with that, that's all I had for you. Again, a poor fill-in for Angela. She's much more knowledgeable about their project than I am, but I'd be happy to attempt to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Oh, go ahead, Nick, and then we'll start.
Thank you, President Preiner. Kyle, I'll just note, within the packet, we put the letter, and on my understanding, that's to be sent out by, I don't think you referenced it. I would say I said in short order. I think this week they hope to get them out, and our intent was just to, in this case, to let the board know that these notices are going out to our residents or a portion of our residents. So if we receive any phone calls or interest, it's a possibility, but staff is prepared to explain what's going on. And I will note the field surveys and the field work that the Conservation District plans to do does not actually involve entering any private property. They'll be looking from road right-of-ways and other public right-of-way. So, thank you.
Madam Chair, Kyle, just wondering if the Citizens Advisory Committee has heard about this as yet, or at the next meeting?
Not to my knowledge. This was, I think, and I just found out about this effort within the last month myself. Again, I think the Conservation District was in a process to decide what focus areas they wanted to utilize this funding for in terms of sub-watershed assessments, and recently came to the decision that this would be one they would pursue, but would be potentially a good topic to present to the CAC at a future meeting. I can talk to Angela about that.
Yes, that'd be great.
Any other questions, comments for Kyle? Thank you, Kyle.
All right, thank you.
District engineer update and timeline. Chris?
Yeah, Madam President, I don't have anything particular to point out, but can certainly answer any questions from the managers.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could kind of update from our update at our workshop about the ditch and the accomplishments of the ditches. And so it gets into a wider audience if possible.
Great, yeah, so just to recap, one of our workshop items that was on Monday was the discussion on the prioritization of district drainage system repair work and how, a discussion on how we classify the drainage systems in terms of their status in how we manage the systems. And generally we have, a staged process going from establishing that original as constructed record to a repair report to developing project plans and completing a major repair. And there are some of the drainage systems that didn't have the need for a repair from top to bottom all the way through. In some cases that was just because they had not accumulated that much sediment along there. Some cases it was because the district has already completed those repairs into the future. So we went over and talked a little bit about some of these that are left, and we have a handful of systems that are left that still need that major system repaired, but the district has accomplished a lot over the last 12 years or so, and certainly has completed most of the major repairs that would have been identified as being needed to be completed back then. The other component that I'll mention is that first stage of the process determining that original as constructed condition, and so far of the, I believe it's 23 systems that the district manages, there's only one drainage system left where we have not determined that original as constructed record. That system is Ramsey County Ditch 1, but we do have that one on the slate in 2023 and have it budgeted to complete that investigation to get that one completed, and then the district will have a record now for every one of its drainage systems that it can use to continue to manage the systems into the future. So that'll be a great accomplishment, completing that next year and completing that stage in its entirety for all the systems.
Madam President, thank you very much, engineer. That's great. That's very good news. This is something that's been worked on in the last 25 years. So, not bad for a quarter of a century and a couple different engineers, and actually most of the work's been done by Houston. I think there's only one drainage ditch that wasn't done by Houston. And thank you. I appreciate that very much.
Yes, thanks.
I agree.
It's been quite an accomplishment.
Mhm.
All right, anything else? Nothing else for the engineer, administrator update?
Yes, Board of Managers, I'll share with you that the district's credit worthiness was recognized by CMI, which is a company that we're looking to buy a large amount of.
Is that Cummins Motors Incorporated?
No, it is not. We're just gonna call them CMI. And for our sheet pile purchase, we had that action by the board on Monday's workshop. I'll remind you that this afternoon, or immediately following the meeting and into the afternoon, we have manager meetings with Ellen Henricks of Career Enhancement Options. If you need to know your time or whatever, we can review that after the meeting. The MOD Resolutions Committee met yesterday, and they are compiling what they're going to recommend to the board. As you know, we submitted a resolution to MOD, and it is being combined with some other ones, is my understanding of what the outcome will be there, and we'll await their packet of materials for the annual meeting. And as Manager Waller and I were conversing here before the meeting. We will be meeting with Commissioners Miron and Karwalski of Washington County tomorrow, ahead of their, the county's larger watershed district presentations on November 1st. That's it.
Okay, any questions for Nick? Anything for Nick? Okay, manager updates. Manager Waller.
Thank you, Madam President. As Nick said, we'll be meeting with the two county commissioners tomorrow, and of course, on November 1st is the larger meeting, which everyone is invited to if they wish to attend. The other thing that Mayor Mary Winfield from Birchwood is going to retire from the political scene this year. Mayor Mary is someone that we've dealt with for a lot of years. Kyle and I both have. And she's kind of unique in the political world of observation. I've never seen her purchase a sign that was manufactured. People put homemade signs up in their yard for her year after year election. I think that says a lot about a local politician when that happens. And while we were there, I happened to bring a couple of the staff members with me. I brought the Administrator Tom Zach and Project Manager Axtall because it was also an occasion we were invited to for a presentation, which Congresswoman McCollum came and gave the mayor a flag and a proclamation and a personal card. And it's over some funding for a lift station that's near White Bear Lake, and as in the past we've worked on lift stations that are near White Bear Lake if they're not already in White Bear Lake, like we did with the White Bear Township. So the staff will be working closely with the mayor in the next few months, because the deadline for the application to the district for grant funding and the mayor's end of her term are about the same. So, and of course, Birchwood doesn't have any staff, so we'll need a little extra help there. I also inspected the Washington County JD2 mowing project that went on. Very good, Ashley. It's a start. It's a little bumpy, I know. Like anything, when you first do it, there's always unexpected situations, but nothing of any serious consequence that I've seen so far. Quite a bit of it's been done, and we'll work on it some more. If you recall that at the Washington County Ditch 3 hearing, mowing was an issue with those folks there too to be done, and so I imagine that'll be one of the next areas to work on. It's easy to do this in projects where the project has just had a work on it for the channel, because there's a nice smooth area to mow, and the outline is made as to where the corridor is, so you have a right of way and things like that. And that's not the case really with JD2. It's been 20 years since that had a serious work from top to bottom in one particular section. And when they did this 20 years ago, they skipped sections. They did it to profile, they skipped the sections, they did it profile, it was hopscotch. And so we'll be looking at working on that some more. And I did meet with, after our workshop on Monday, I stopped by the City Hall and met with Brian Bear, and they will check with the city, we'll check with C if we can still work something out there. Brian was going to check with his staff, and I said I'd check with ours, and that's what I'm doing right now. So, thank you very much.
Okay, anything else? Manager White?
The only thing I have is I attended the CAC meeting, which went well. They got some presentations, and Matt was there and gave a presentation on the fish barriers, which always goes over well. And I don't know why it is, but I never get sick of listening to it either. So I enjoyed listening. But other than that, I think everybody's aware of all the issues that were discussed.
Manager Weiner?
Thank you. I am surprised at how many comments I've had about the Supreme Court ruling on the Renville County ditch, creek, and public waters piece. So looking at, in the entire spectrum, looking to find more information about that as it settles out and folks have understanding of it. So Chuck, would you have anything to add at this point? Are you? Nope, okay.
I'm not sure what I would offer at this point from a programmatic point of view.
Yep,
I think the decision itself was very pragmatic, and it concerned the specific matter that came up with respect to that water body.
mm-hmm,
But the state Supreme Court, to my reading, I'll have to go back and parse through it carefully, but they didn't announce a broad rule. They sort of implied how waters that are not on the list should be treated and identified and managed by DNR, but they didn't set a rule. So
pragmatic, specific, yeah. Okay, we'll watch with interest.
Go ahead.
President Preiner, Manager Wynand, I think the decision, as you note, and from your comment about all the communications you've seen or received, has raised a lot of concern about what the outcomes might be. And as Chuck said, it was, or I understood him to say, it was a very focused decision, but it remains to be seen now how entities or the public will see it in applying to specific projects into the future, whether they take court action or not, so.
Madam President.
Go ahead.
Chuck, as I read the decision, it seemed to be, the reason it was so specific is because of the issue versus the map versus the list. That the map showed one thing, the list was absent of the other, and in order to, I think the phrase they used was mirror the list and the map. They're supposed to be mirrored, identical. They then reverted to the process for that specific area. So that was the issue about it, was that it was on a map, but it wasn't on a list.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, to consolidate these so that they were in sync, they decided to go back and look at the statute, and that's how they decided it. And I think that's the reason. It wasn't a broad policy change. It was just this specific issue to this specific small area to solve that problem.
it was a very peculiar instance
Yeah.
for that water body where the map and the list did not align. But the question at the Court of Appeals was broader, and it was about, there's a definition in the statute of what is a public water, and then the DNR was tasked to create a list of those public waters that met the definition, which of course they did some years back. And the question was, if there's a public water that is not on the DNR's list, the inventory, can you argue nevertheless that it meets the definition of a public water in the statute? And does that make it a public water subject to DNR jurisdiction, even if it's not on that inventory that was prepared? And the Court of Appeals said, yes, you look at the statute, and if the DNR missed it, you can go through process, but it's still a public water. So the Supreme Court didn't endorse that. They looked and said, well, this is a strange case where the map and list didn't line up, so we're just going to treat it on that basis. So in that sense, it doesn't apply to any other public water in the state, but there are implications, I think, that the Court of Appeals reasoning would sort of tend to be the way people will go until it bubbles up again.
Okay,
Thank you.
Anything else? I have nothing else. I'll need a motion to adjourn.
So move to adjourn, Madam Chair.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
There we go.
Brian's concerned.
So does